What is going on, guys? Rob here. Tyler and I are going to hit this full intermediate calisthenics workout. We're going to be focusing on kind of incorporating some mobility and just some intermediate calisthenics skills while hitting a full workout. This is what your workout should actually kind of look like. Although the skills are really super cool and fun, they have their own separate training. This is the workout that's going to get you to the skills. First one we're going to do is L-sit, compression lift, back to L-sit, back to compression lift. So the big thing here is to stay tight in your core the whole time and actually go slow, go controlled. Hold for a couple seconds in each and then go back through. And we're just gonna do 4 or 5 of these. They catch up. Like, that's the thing that never amazes me, how the basics still can like be so brutal. Yeah. But here, so we're taking a skill, the L-sit, and we're combining it with the next progressional steps, which is like L-sit to handstand, tuck planche. Picking up your hips like this is gonna work directly towards some of those next goals. And it just makes the basic L-sit a little bit more fun, a little bit harder. How'd that feel? Yeah. Not going all the way up and keeping a straight arm. I'm basically picking my hips all the way up without extending my feet. It's a totally just different feel. It's not the best. It's not like, it doesn't matter, but it's a totally different feel. And getting used to picking your hips up like that, it just makes all the difference in the world when you want to go and learn like those next planche movements and whatnot. Still a lot on the wrist. Not as bad. Okay. But basically your wrist has tons going on, like cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and mobility of the wrist. You really gotta warm up, make sure that you're there, and progress your way. Your wrists take a long time to actually catch up to some of the skills that you might be able to handle. So here, hand positioning, huge. If these bars weren't here, you really wouldn't have to worry about it. It's just because of these horizontal bars. Vertical bar. The big thing is too, though, with your wrists, like, try to stack your guys' wrists. This is a position of strength. When your wrist is locked in line, like that's a natural positioning. When we start to get here, you're gonna have a much harder time. So like, that's the difference. Turning your wrist like this versus keeping them locked like that. Next, we're going straight into these explosive pull-ups. And we're switching grip from a close to a little bit of a wide. The big thing here is I'm trying to keep constant tension on the back. Switching grips like that, your arms are gonna be working a lot, but I'm not fully locking out at the bottom. I'm stopping right before so that I keep tension and just switch as many times as you can. Usually 6 times each grip is more than plenty. So you can tell when you're doing the set towards the end, yeah, lower and lower and lower. This is one that'll really force you to work hard at the top range of the motion and keep continuing that. And that's the craziest part about not just calisthenics, but anything. As you go, you can tell you're progressing by where you're at towards the end of the set. You know, and what I like to do on that one is at the very end, go to wide and then pull as high as I can in that wide grip just to finish out, really target my back and kind of get a pump going. Calisthenics is all about finding a progression that is further than where you're already at, but not so far that you can't do it. And I think most of the people struggle with finding that in between space where to actually stay and work. You know, a lot of people are guilty of ego lifting and trying things that they're not quite ready for yet. In calisthenics, that looks like skills. You know, I want a Victorian so bad, but I can't even hold it for 3 seconds. So it's pointless for me to go to a full Victorian, right? I need to progress and regress back and maybe work on like a different progression that I can hold for a longer time. But even in your workouts, it's the same thing. Going straight to L-sit pull-ups might be really hard for someone. Doing normal pull-ups might be really easy. Use this one. Listen, man, when I woke up today, I did not say I wanted to get. So the goal with your dips is to really puff your chest out. Keep those shoulders black. Externally rotate your shoulders and your elbows. Keep your elbows tucked in. And then on these, you know, and might be too tall, but I am gonna be too tall. So I'm actually gonna bend forward just a little bit. So the big difference is if we were to do out more with your chest up, you're gonna work your chest more. And if you were to do straight up, straight down, you're gonna work more of your triceps, more of your arms. What we're doing on these is actually working our triceps a lot more. And dips is like super underrated way in my opinion. Whew. Big arms, with calisthenics only. You know, obviously lifting weight, you're gonna be able to isolate target muscle groups a lot better. With calisthenics, we have to find variations that do that as best we can, because this is still a compound movement, still working your shoulders, still working your chest. But man, that's brutal. Arms are on fire. So I wanna walk you guys through, this is a wider bar, which is why we didn't do dips on here, but I wanna walk you through the actual dip form. What I want you guys to focus on is, like we said, chest up, chest out, shoulders back. And then from here on a true dip, you're actually gonna come and lean forward a little bit. What this is gonna do is it's gonna hit your chest a lot more. It's gonna take a lot of the load off your arms. You're only leaning forward when you come down, but you're still keeping your shoulders back and chest up and out, okay? That's how you're gonna do a true dip. All these other variations, like kind of what you saw me do over on the previous clip, I'm only doing that because I have no room. I don't like dips like this. I don't like dips like cross-leg dips like this. You're not doing anything. Instead, focus on strict puff your chest out, shoulders and elbows back. Boom. Explode up. That's how you're really gonna work the muscle group that you wanna work, your lower chest, while still hitting your triceps and your shoulders a little bit. You're saying you're at an L-sit, you wanna get to a V-sit, or further your V-sit. How would you do that? So like obviously, if your goal is to go from here to that V-sit, there's definitely a couple key things you can do. To be honest, the easiest, simplest way with L-sit to V-sit, just keep increasing your V-sit wherever you're at. Like simply doing it where you're at is enough. And I actually think it's worthwhile. This is one of the exercises where using a little bit of momentum to increase your range of motion is gonna get your body used to it over time. Is it the most effective way? No, there's some other stuff you could do. You could do the pulses on the ground, those leg raises. That's gonna be amazing because it's the compression work and it's actually getting your hips and your legs into a proper position. Pulsing or even just holding wherever you're at, same thing. Ultimately, the V-sit, flexibility, mobility, strength exercise. You gotta train your body to get into that position, flexibility-wise. The other thing is go up against the wall, put your feet up against the wall, sitting on the ground, force yourself into the furthest position and just hold. Once again, it's gonna rip, you know, but that'll train your body to actually get to that level. At the end of the day, application where you want it is gonna help. Even if your V-sit's only right here, it's not gonna matter. Like, that's enough because it's more than an L-sit. And over time, when you can hold that position for longer, as long as you're doing some of the other work, you'll have that increased range of motion. It's just about doing it. One of the hardest things with pseudo planche push-ups is when we get here, right, we're leaned, we come down. Well, when we go to press up, a lot of times our body's really good at compensating. So when we press up, we like lean back and we lose a lot out of the movement. But we're gonna start here. We're gonna put our hands as far back as we can. So ideally, you know, find your waist level. I don't like to keep them like right on. I like to come out a little bit. And then from here, we're actually just gonna like squeeze our glutes, squeeze everything and press up so that we're here, come down, reset, press up. Come down. So as you can see, I'm already losing it. So reset, right? Now I'm gonna bring my hands slightly up a little bit so that I'm not as leaned forward. And same thing. And done. So the goal here isn't like 10, 12 reps necessarily. It's quality over quantity. And all I'm trying to do is get used full range of motion in the furthest, hardest position that I can put myself in. And starting in that dead position helps you because you do the hardest part first, then control the negative, basically doing almost like reverse negatives. So that's what we'll do. And this might be a calisthenics cheat code. Let me make sure you're in frame and then, yep, okay. So yeah, that's a good place to start. Before you go to press, squeeze your glutes, squeeze the back of your hamstrings all the way down to your toes. Now push up, protract through at the top, good, and negative down. And relax. Reset, and whenever you're ready. Good. So whenever it gets too hard, you'll just move your hands up. So this is an adjustment exercise, you know. And if you go to press and you're stuck, that's your cue. Just go back down, move your hands, repeat. Really control that negative as smooth as possible. Fire. Yep. Good, 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 good. Good. So at least get one more. Good. So the big keys of this exercise too, guys, is like there's two components to making it harder or easier. Where your hands are in relation to your waist is one, and how much of a lean forward you have is the other. In this particular exercise, you're forced into a lean position. So your lean is at the farthest point that your lean can be because of the setup that we're using. No matter where you place your hands, unless obviously they're like in a normal push-up spot, you're having a pretty deep lean in relative to your hand position. So the only thing you can make this exercise easier with is your hand positioning, which has its benefits and then obviously has its like downsides, which is you can't make it harder the other way. But this is directly going to help with the lean portion because all you have to do is worry about moving your hands back and back, further and further to get better. It basically eliminates one of the variables to the planche, essentially. Right, so that's the big thing, right? Is like, and you could do them like this, but obviously a lot harder with a full planche, and I still find myself able to miss time and misuse the lean, which is why I like straddle. It just forces you into a position that you can't really come out of as easily. And then, so yeah, you know, if I put my hands all the way back here, that's at my waist. I don't have to worry about it. I can feel confident and I'm getting the full positioning all the way through. Of course, you know, you could do the same thing here, go into your lean, come down. I just use the dead press so that I know I'm not able to cheat it. I want you to go as low as you can where you can still have your balance, but it's challenging. So it's probably all you're gonna get to. And I'll just explain it because the big thing with the rows is that most people think like, oh, I can do my rows easy. While that might be the case, you need to change the way you do your rows. So you can do double rows, you can do archer rows, and you can do single arm rows. And then you can go into tuck lever rows, but that's a whole different thing. The big thing is that on top of changing those three variation of rows, you can change the angle. So right now we're in the farthest angle we can get to while still keeping our balance, doing the harder variation of single arm. And what we could do is we could actually pin ourselves all the way against the bottom and pull from the dead bottom position, which would be 10 times harder and we would struggle with, which is why we're doing it like this instead. So, you know, learning how to keep changing the angle to keep getting the most out of your rows, that's the big thing. What that kind of looks like is, you know, most people get here and they're like, you'll start up here, right? And you'll do your rows. And you'll keep constant tension on your back, so you'll be like, okay, this is easy. I could do this, you know, 100 times. Okay, we'll drop your feet a little. Okay, Boom, little bit harder. Still relatively easy for me, so what I'm gonna have to do is come down here and I'm gonna do the bent version. This is much harder already. Already a big difference. Now, if that really got too easy, I would go here, boom, straddles a little bit harder, and then eventually you come to this like full bottom position. And the only reason we don't do this is because it's hard with foot grip, but this is killer, right? The next step would be actually elevating your feet so you're doing suspended rows. Now we're gonna come back up top and just apply that same thing. So I'm gonna do my single arm rows here. Boom, constant tension. This is really killer already. But in case I wanted to make it harder, same thing. I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna use the bent knee version, and boom, instantly, this is much more difficult. I can maybe get 5 or 6 of these. So with our rows, you guys should do rows from start to finish, endlessly. Should never progress past rows because of how difficult they are. And eventually, if you really get there, you'll just do front lever rows. So that's like 8, 9, 10. So how difficult would you say those 10 were?
A little bit worse than standing straight up singles.
Right.
It's just a whole different angle, and you are pulling your
Yeah, so that's another thing too we didn't even talk about, but you could pull to your waist, whole different feel again. So when you get comfortable pulling like this, start to pull to your waist, it's gonna kill even more. And if you did 10 for 3 or 4 sets, you probably feel really good. The goal with these exercises is to get to a point where by the 3rd set, this is like so challenging that you can't even complete all 10 on your 3rd or 4th set. If you can progress like that, then the next time you go to do the workout, see if you can actually hit all 10. Once you get to that point, change the variation, make them harder, restart your progression.